To Celebrity Radio, it's Alex Belfield talking to some of the country's biggest stars and some of my favourite people, and we've got one for you today. A lady who was born to sing, who is a fabulous entertainer and has a voice, well, like no other. Next year, she's going on the cruise of the performing arts with Katherine Jenkins, Alfie Boe and Wyn Evans, amongst others. We're going to find out all about that. First, though, let's talk to Ruthie Henshall. How are you doing?
Well, thank you very much.
What's it like being you? I can't imagine there's any better place than to be a leading lady who gets work regardless of where you are in the world. People want to hear you sing. That's lovely, isn't it?
It is rather lovely. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. But I still can't believe. I've been in the business sort of 31 years now, and I still can't believe. I get paid to do what I do for a living. It is nuts.
It's an interesting form of show business. I mean, last night I was in the West End, tonight I'm again seeing another show, and it's hard work. You've got to turn up 8 times a week. That in itself is frustrating. It's a shame you can't do it just maybe once or twice.
Well, I think that's where people like when they do something at the National or in Rep get it good, because they get sort of 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes twice a week, and that would be a perfect balance between life and art. But to be quite honest, I'm so used to it now. I've spent 31 years doing 8 shows a week. I'm so used to it that it's the norm. It is, it's fairly full on, because when you're doing a show, it's not just the show. You've got press, publicity, you've got rehearsals, but I'm in no way, shape or form complaining, because as I said, I get to do my passion for a living, and I can't believe my luck.
Do you ever get nervous? I mean, I wonder when you're on a bill like Katherine Jenkins and Alfie Boe. I mean, they're probably up there. You're the queen of West End. They're the queen and king of classical music right now. Do you ever get sort of nervous that you're going to either be upstaged or that they're going to start judging you, or is it just a team effort?
Oh, I think it's definitely a team effort. I don't think it's ever about being upstaged. What it is a feeling of, I've never worked with them before, and I'm excited about working with them because it's new people. They do something very different to me. Yeah. So, it's a different genre, really. So, although both of them recently, didn't they? They did, I think it was Carousel.
That's right.
At the ENO, but and Alfie's done Les Mis, but it's very much a different genre, and I'm so looking forward to working with them or alongside them, or hopefully we'll get to sing together.
It's the Bravo cruise. It leaves Southampton on the 19th of May 2018, and it's going to be a stunning cruise. I wonder how they've managed to get you all on that ship. I mean, it must cost about £1 million a ticket, because it's a remarkable bill that you wouldn't even get in the West End.
I know. And I think that's the great thing, isn't it, about something like that, because, it's not just about the ticket price, to get into a theatre to see something. They're having a whole experience of being on board, of travelling to places and seeing this, these... Well, I was going to say, I can't say that about myself, but sort of, incredible artists to... I mean, I think it's such a brilliant idea. Yeah. You don't have to go anywhere to change clothes. You don't have to worry about getting taxis, and it's all provided for you. So it's a really wonderful experience.
The downside is, though, that you're on holiday with the punters who can sort of grab you whilst you're having your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, your tea. Are you worried about that? I mean, it is a ship and there is no way of getting off it.
Well, they're normally fairly big, and what I've found, I've been on the Queen Mary 2, and I found that people are very respectful, and also they just want to say if they've enjoyed the show, which is lovely feedback, and they're always really rather lovely, but it's only for a few days anyway, and you normally meet some really cool people.
Yeah, how lovely. I think the last time I saw you on stage was in Billy Elliot in the West End, which I thought was just fabulous and probably one of your greatest roles ever. Was it a joy to play that? Because it's such a fabulous part.
Incredible. It really is a superb show because it touches everybody. And, it doesn't matter whether you're a child or you're, an adult or you're an old age pensioner or you are like musical theatre or don't like musical theatre. It absolutely gets you in some way, shape or form because, number one, stick a child in a show. You're onto a winner.
Yeah.
But, the kids in it were so brilliant.
They're ludicrous, aren't they? What they're asked to do is unbelievable.
Absolutely incredible. And I have to tell you that most of those Billies didn't dance before they got the part. They got the part because of their personality as opposed to their ability. Yeah. They just would look at them and see whether they thought they could train them up. If they liked the person and, just the whole sort of vibe of these little kids, when they're auditioning them. And I remember saying to the choreographer once when I was watching one of these children flipping off the piano, and I said, how do they do this? That's so hard. And she turned to me and she said, we just don't tell them it's hard, Ruthie. Right. Because
fearless
kids, they're fearless. And you look at, when we did the it wasn't the 10th anniversary that this was, it was the Billy Live, that's right, and it was going to all the cinemas, and they brought back 24 of the old Billies of varying ages to do this huge finale, and bar one of them who had a tattoo shop, all the rest of them were still dancing or doing something in the business. Wow. And were really successful. And you've got people like Tom Holland, it's Hollander, isn't it?
That's right.
Tom Holland, who's now the new Spider-Man.
Yeah,
they are so successful. And the Billies that I was with, I've kept in touch, and they're all training to be in the business. And it just is such a privilege to watch these kids growing up.
And what I love about that show too, it's not sanitized, it's not nice, it's not cute, it's not Disney. It is a proper story with real language set in the North, as it should be. And again, there are awkward moments in it because you think, oh God, those kids are hearing all this stuff. But it was not a great time for this country and very little to be proud of.
They've taken something that, I remember vividly the miners' strike and, Thatcher closing all these mines and the whatever the reasons and, the politics behind it, it devastated lives. It just devastated them. And, I remember when Margaret Thatcher died, they came on stage because there's a number, of course, about Maggie Thatcher, and which isn't particularly.
It's not complimentary, is it? One day closer to your death. No.
Yes. and they came on stage and said, look, there's a number in this that's not particularly nice about Margaret Thatcher. If you feel that you don't want it performed, then we will take it out of the show. And the audience were fine about it. They said, no, leave the show as it is. But, she just, devastated by that, all the privatisation that was going on. And in some, you can talk politics for days about right, wrong, should have, shouldn't have, all of this. The bottom line is that that the Easington, where it's set, as soon as the mines closed, the drugs moved in.
Yeah.
And it's never, ever recovered. And there are people whose families never, ever recovered from this. And there are miners that went back to work whose families have never spoken to them again.
And then we look at your career generally. I mean, you've worked in every major theatre, I think, certainly all the gems from the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, and every show that you'd want to be in. I mean, I remember seeing Children in Eden when I was a kid. Just a glorious show that really should be back. That was a great show, and you were in the original cast.
Yes, and we knew it was a wonderful show. The music is fantastic. And can you get hold of an album of Children of Eden? No.
No.
It was incredible, but it just didn't take off, and it should have done. But then, there are all sorts of other factors with theatre as well. I remember doing Peggy Sue Got Married, which absolutely deserved a run.
Mm.
And 9/11 happened, and nobody was coming into London, and our tourists that that we would normally fly over weren't flying, so we were gone within 4 months, and we didn't even get a chance to see if it was it was going to take off. I mean, there were shows like Les Mis that had 17 people in the audience, over that time. I remember us having, in the Shaftesbury Theatre, we had 21 people, one particular matinee, and
Wow.
the equity rule is that if there's more people on stage than there is in the audience, you don't have to perform it.
Wow.
But as a cast and as performers, if people have come to see the show, that they've probably travelled from far away. So we all just went on and did it anyway. But there are so many other factors as to whether something is going to go. Marguerite was another one. A very worthy show, but the Northern Rock collapsed, and it was, it's so vulnerable as a luxury.
Yeah.
That you are the first thing to go, anything that's a luxury. And so we will always suffer in a crisis, but...
and even now it's an interesting time. I see that touring theatre are charging £50 a ticket to see some of the big shows, the Miss Saigons and things like that. In London now you can pay 120 quid easily to sit in the stalls. Is musical theatre, do you think, in a good place? Because there's so many of these sort of touring jukebox musicals that seem to be doing big business that don't necessarily help more credible stuff, even though they're popular.
I think that there is room for everything.
Right.
I don't... it doesn't mean I like everything.
Right.
When there is CRAP going round that's not of a standard, you kind of hope that people understand that that's not what it should be. But it's... I mean, as long as people are being entertained, that's great. But yes, I have to say that I think there is also, a lot of toot that goes around. And, I think what we have to really watch out for is that, things are getting cut, quality, cast, musicians, all of those are the first things to sort of, get cut down in order to try and make the money.
And there's only one pie. I mean, I see that On the Road Sunset Boulevard has just lost 5 weeks off the tour because of ticket sales. There are only so many pounds in people's pockets. There's a lot on the road at the moment, especially in the regions, that people have got the choice of, with Wicked coming back next year. These are expensive shows.
They are expensive shows, and, they can afford to tour as well, because you've got Wicked sitting down in the West End that has been, incredibly successful, so they can afford to, lose a few pounds here and there. There are, the newer shows, absolutely can't. I mean, it's a real dilemma for me because, I mean, Broadway is ridiculous for ticket prices.
Yeah,
I don't know how anyone affords to go to the theatre there. I mean, I think a friend of mine paid, I think it was about $300 for a ticket to see Bette Midler in Hello Dolly.
Yeah. They offered me one for $700, and it wasn't even in the stalls.
There you go. I paid $200 to see Hamilton, and it was only because I, was able to get hold of a company ticket because I knew someone in it. And they, that was, when I told somebody, I said, God, it was $200. They went, who's your contact? Because, the minimum that they were going for was like $500. I mean, we're not that bad in the West End, but I know that, the Hamilton, going in the West End, their ticket prices, top price are sort of, 100 and 125 pounds. That's a huge amount of money.
Yeah. It's an interesting time at the moment. I've got to ask you the question that is going around the business at the minute, which is the history of producers and the casting couch and all that stuff, which has been so prevalent, especially since Spacey hit the news. Yeah. What is your take on this? Have you ever felt under pressure, or have you ever felt that producers have taken advantage of you to give you the role, or have you been lucky enough that your talent shone so brightly that you've avoided all of that?
I have never been in that situation, luckily. I think, yes, maybe it's slightly different because an awful lot of the time I don't have to get in the room. I get offered stuff. So I'm in a very fortunate position, but everything that's come to light, really, it shows that it goes on. And, I'm really, really sorry. And really feel for any victims of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for musicals and, of course, your career. In just one word, is there a gig you've got your eye on? When are we going to see you back on stage 8 times a week?
As soon as the role comes along that excites me, really.
That's disappointing. That means we might have to wait. But we can see you this next summer, 2018, on the Cruise of the Performing Arts. You can Google Bravo Cruises, the Cruise of the Performing Arts, with the wonderful Ruthie Henshall, Catherine Jenkins, Alfie Bowe and Wyn Evans, amongst many others. Ruthie, I've loved talking to you. Thank you for your time.
And you. Thank you.